The diner closes at 2 in the morning on Fridays, and I've learned not to ask why. That's what Sal, the owner, pays me for. The ability to keep my head down, my mouth shut, and my hands moving fast. Tonight, like most nights, the kitchen smells like grease, burnt coffee, and the ghost of 1,000 meals I've served to people whose names I'll never know. My feet ache in ways that suggest they've filed a formal complaint with my brain. It's 1:47 a.m. when the bell above the door chimes. I don't look up from wiping down the espresso machine. Muscle memory guides my hands, while my mind drifts to the rent notice, sitting on my kitchen counter like a small, paper-thin executioner, $300 short. I have 6 days. The math never changes, but the panic does. It finds new creative ways to ambush me. Kitchen's closed, I call out, not bothering to turn around. Coffee and pie only. No response. That's when I notice the silence. Not the absence of sound that's normal at 1:47 a.m. in a neighborhood that's more neon signs than actual people. But this silence has weight. It presses against the back of my neck like a hand. I turn. He's standing in the doorway like he materialized from the shadows themselves. The first thing I notice is that he shouldn't be standing at all. His jacket expensive, dark wool hangs off one shoulder like it's the only thing holding him vertical. His dress shirt is torn at the collar, and there's something dark staining the fabric near his ribs. Not wine. My waitressing instincts catalog this immediately. Blood. Fresh blood. The kind that smells like copper and adrenaline. His face is all sharp angles and darker intentions. High cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so black they look like they've swallowed every light in this diner and asked for more. Those eyes find mine across the empty space, and something in my chest stutters. He takes a step forward, and I realize he's limping. We're closed, I repeat, but my voice sounds different now. Smaller. I'm not here for food, he says, and his voice is low, fractured at the edges like it's been dragged over gravel in survival. His accent is impossible to place. Eastern European, maybe. Something older than geography. I'm here because my people told me there's a nurse here, a good one. I'm not a nurse. I'm a waitress who watched 3 seasons of a medical drama and knows how to apply a Band-Aid without passing out. But the way he's looking at me like I'm the only thing standing between him and the dark makes me hesitate. You need a hospital, I say. He laughs. And it's the saddest sound I've ever heard in a place that serves sadness in coffee cups. The hospital is where my enemies will look first. He takes another step. The limp is worse now. I can see his hand pressed against his side, and when he pulls it away, his fingers shine with fresh blood. Jesus Christ. I breathe. And I'm already moving 6 years of serving crisis and trauma, disguised as customers, has wired my body to respond before my brain catches up. Sit down before you bleed all over my floor. Sal charges me for spills. It's a stupid thing to say. But it's the only thing I know how to do. Normalize crisis through sarcasm. It's my superpower and my curse. He moves to the nearest booth, slow, deliberate. Like each motion is a negotiation with his own body. I grab the first aid kit from under the register, kept stocked, because Fridays draw a certain clientele, and slide into the booth across from him. My diner apron still tied around my waist. What happened? I ask, pulling his jacket away carefully. Business dispute, he says, which tells me everything and nothing. I lift his shirt. The wound is a graze, deep, angry, definitely needs stitches, but survivable. The blood has mostly clotted. He's lucky. Or someone wanted him to be lucky. You really should. I know what I should do, he interrupts, and there's something in his voice now that makes the air taste like copper. I'm doing what I need to do. My hands work on autopilot, cleaning the wound with hydrogen peroxide, watching him not flinch once. Not a twitch, not a breath. This man operates in a space beyond pain, which tells me his pain must be catastrophic. Who are you? I ask, trying to focus on the practical threading a needle, making my stitches even, pretending this is normal. Someone you shouldn't know, he says quietly. Too late, I whisper, and I don't know why I'm whispering. I already know you bleed like everyone else. He goes still. His black eyes lock onto mine, and in that moment, I feel the force of something ancient and dangerous and wounded shift its entire attention toward me. It's terrifying. It's magnetic. It's like staring directly at the sun and expecting not to burn. What's your name? He asks. Arya, I say, because he's looking at me like my answer matters more than his next breath. Arya, he repeats, and the way he says my name like it's a word in a language he's just learning. Like it costs something to speak. It makes my stomach drop. The door chimes again. Both of us go rigid. His hand moves with liquid speed to my wrist. Not violent, but absolutely immovable. He's suddenly less wounded man, more predator waiting for prey. "It's okay," comes a voice from the doorway. A woman in her 60s, bleached blonde, wearing the same diner apron I am. "It's just me. Forgot my purse." "It's Margaret, the night shift regular, who works Thursdays." The man releases my wrist, and I don't realize I was holding my breath until I exhale. "Aria, honey." Is that Margaret's words die as she sees the state of the booth? The blood on my hands. The torn shirt. The man who looks like he just crawled out of a tomb and decided he liked it. "Oh God, he needed help," I say, which is incomplete and dangerous and the truest thing I've ever said. "You can't—" Margaret starts, but the man stands, and something in his posture silences her completely. He's not threatening, he's just present, and his presence is enough. "She was kind," he says to Margaret, still looking at me. "That will be remembered." Before I can respond, before I can even process what he means by remembered, he moves toward the back exit, the one that leads to the alley, the one that employees use for smoke breaks and avoiding difficult customers. "Wait," I call out without thinking. I need nothing," he says, pausing at the threshold. "But you, Aria, you need to be careful what you wish for. Kindness to men like me is a dangerous currency." The door closes behind him, and he's gone like he was never there at all. Margaret and I stand in the fluorescent aftermath, and all I can think is that my rent money, the $300 I desperately need, just walked out the back door. But something else walked in. Something older and scarier and entirely beyond my comprehension. And whatever it was, it knew my name. 3 days pass. I tell myself it was a hallucination brought on by too many double shifts and the low-grade panic that comes with being permanently broke. The brain does weird things when it's desperate. But the diner still has a dark stain on the booth seat that won't come out, and Sal found it this morning. He asked no questions, which means he already knew the story. He also didn't fire me, which means whoever bled in booth 4 has enough influence to make my employment secure. That realization sits in my stomach like a stone. I've started noticing things since that night. Small things. The same black car parked across the street when I leave work. A man in a gray coat, who doesn't order anything but sits in the corner booth for hours, watching the door. Yesterday, my landlord, a creature usually more interested in his television than his tenants, brought me an envelope with 6 weeks of paid rent from an anonymous benefactor, his hands shaking as he handed it over. The money has the same quality as my fear. Tangible but impossible to explain. Tonight, I'm closing alone because Margaret called in sick, and Sal's nowhere to be found. The diner feels different when I'm the only one in it. Larger, more echoing. My footsteps sound like a heartbeat in a tomb. I'm wiping down the counter at 1:30 a.m. when the lights flicker. Once, twice. It's a Tuesday, so there are no customers. No Margaret, no Sal lurking in the back office. Just me and the fluorescent hum, and whatever has decided to reclaim my normal. The phone rings. I stare at it. The diner's phone never rings this late. My hand reaches for it before my brain can lodge a reasonable objection. "Hello?" My voice sounds very small, breathing on the other end. Not heavy, just present. Listening. "Who is this?" I ask. "Someone checking that you're safe." The voice is low, measured, with that accent I can't place. The one attached to wounded black eyes and hands that knew exactly where my pulse was. My throat closes. "How did you—" I start. "You're going to close the register," he continues, like I didn't speak. "You're going to walk to your car. You're not going to stop. You're not going to look in the mirrors. You're going to drive straight home." "What?" "Who?" "There's someone watching you, Moya. Not me. Someone else. And they need to see that you're predictable, safe, unimportant." The phone line goes dead. I stand there, receiver still pressed to my ear, my heart performing an Olympic-level gymnastics routine in my chest. Moya, the Russian word for mine, sits in my mouth like poison and honey mixed together. The lights flicker again. This time, I move. My hands shake as I count the register, the numbers blur into nothing. I grab my jacket, my purse, and I walk. The bell above the door chimes, and the October night hits me with a wall of cold that feels deliberate, malicious. The black car is parked across the street. Don't look at it, I think, forcing my eyes forward. Don't acknowledge it. Don't give it a reason to be anything other than background. My car is a 2008 Honda Civic held together by spite and prayer. It takes 3 tries to start, it always does, and as the engine turns over, I see movement in the black car. A door opening. I drive. The streets at 1:45 a.m. are a surreal landscape. Empty, except for the occasional insomniac or creature of night. All neon and shadows, and the feeling of being watched from the dark. My apartment is 16 blocks away. Normally, I drive with the radio on, humming, trying to fill the silence. Tonight, I drive with the radio off, my hands at 10 and 2, my eyes forward. I check the mirrors once. The black car is 3 lengths back. My breath comes shallow. The rent money suddenly feels like blood money. Everything feels stained. I don't go home. It's not a conscious decision. My hands simply don't turn the steering wheel toward my apartment. Instead, I drive toward the park, the one with the old playground and the running trail that cuts through the woods, the one I've always been afraid to visit because newspaper headlines are full of stories about women who thought they were safe in dark places. I pull over at the entrance, turn off my car, and wait. The black car passes without slowing. I watch it disappear around the corner, and for a moment, the only sound is my own breathing. Then another car pulls up behind me. This one is different. Sleek, dark, expensive in a way that makes my Civic look like a toy. The door opens, and a man steps out. Not the man from the diner. This one is younger, with cold eyes, and the kind of built that suggests his job description includes violence. "Miss Aria," he says, and there's no question in his voice. "Sir needs to see you." "I'm not going anywhere with you," I say, but my voice betrays me by shaking. "That's not a request," he replies, opening the passenger door. "And you should know the car following you for 3 days? They're not ours. They're working for someone else. Someone who wants to know why you helped our boss. Someone who thinks you might be important to him, which makes you a liability to them." He says it like he's explaining the weather. "And going with you won't make me a liability?" I ask. "No," he says simply. "It makes you protected." I look at my apartment building in the distance. I think about the anonymous rent money, the flickering lights, the voice on the phone that knew my name and called me Moya, like it was a prayer or a curse. "If I get in this car," I say slowly, "what happens to me?" The man's expression doesn't change. You meet the man who saved you without letting you say thank you, and you learn why being kind to people like him is the most dangerous currency in existence. I think about the wound, the blood, the black eyes that swallowed light. I get in the car. As we pull away from the park, I see the black car reappear in our mirrors, following at a careful distance. The man beside me watches them with the expression of someone who's bored by a problem he's already solved. "What's your name?" I ask. "Dimitri," he says. "I work for Alexander." The name lands like a bullet. Heavy, immediate, changing the trajectory of everything. Is that his name? The man from the diner? "That's his name," Dimitri confirms. "And he's the boss of the Petrov Syndicate, which means you're about to enter a world where you're either protected or you're dead. There's no middle ground." The car accelerates, and the city lights blur past like a fever dream. "Which one am I?" I whisper. Dimitri glances at me, and for a moment, something almost like pity crosses his face. "That depends on whether Alexander can keep you from becoming what he is, and I've never seen him try before." The mansion rises from the darkness, like a curse that's learned to hold gold. It's impossibly large, all dark stone and glittering windows, surrounded by walls that look older than God. Security cameras nest in the corners like watching birds. Guards in unmarked suits nod as we pass through gates that open with the kind of machinery that suggests this place is a fortress masquerading as a home. Dimitri escorts me through corridors that smell like expensive leather and old money. The paintings on the walls depict scenes of war and passion, hunting parties, storm clouds, faces that look like they belong to people who didn't apologize for taking what they wanted. "Don't stare," Dimitri says. "They're his ancestors. The Petrov family has been in the business of power for longer than this country has existed." "What business is that exactly?" I ask. "The kind that doesn't have a clean name," he replies. We arrive at a study. It's exactly what I imagine a dangerous man's sanctuary looks like. Floor-to-ceiling books, a fireplace with real flames, leather chairs that probably cost more than my annual salary, and a desk that sits like a throne. The windows overlook the city, all glittering darkness and distant lights. The entire world spread beneath this room, like a map of his domain. He's standing with his back to me, looking out at the city. For a moment, I don't recognize him. He's different like this, not wounded, not desperate, not clinging to survival. He's wearing a black shirt, tailored, expensive, and his shoulders are broad enough to carry the weight of empires. His hair is dark, wet like he just showered, and there's something almost vulnerable about him when he's not meeting your eyes. Then he turns. Alexander Petrov is more devastating when he's whole. His shirt is unbuttoned at the collar, and I can see the bandages I wrapped around his ribs. The wound beneath is healing fast, too fast for normal healing. But I don't ask about that because asking about things feels like stepping into traffic. "Leave us," he tells Dmitri, who nods and disappears. "We're alone." "You shouldn't have come with him," Alexander says, and his voice is softer than it was in the diner. Still dangerous, still layered with things I don't understand, but softer, like he's translating his words into something human adjacent. "You called me," I say. "You told me to drive. You sent your person to pick me up." "I told you to go home," he corrects. "I told you to be predictable. Safe. What I didn't tell you to do was meet me, because being here, in my home, with you..." He stops, and I watch him struggle with whatever he's about to say. The struggle is the most honest thing he's done so far. It's not safe. "The guy following me, Dmitri said he wasn't your person." "No," Alexander confirms. "He's working for the Volkov family. Rivals. Weak rivals, but dangerous when they feel they have leverage." "And I'm leverage because I treated your wound?" I ask. "You're leverage because I looked at you," he says, and the simplicity of it breaks something in my chest. 1 second of looking, and 3 families immediately understood that you matter to me. In my world, that's a death sentence. He moves closer, and I realize he's controlling every step, every breath, like proximity to me requires the discipline of someone defusing a bomb. "Why am I here?" I ask. "Because I needed to see you. Because I needed to tell you that the rent money, the protection, the car outside your diner, it's all still happening whether you want it to or not. Because I'm selfish enough to take you from your safe, small life, and dangerous enough to guard it the way I guard my own," he says quietly. "And because I need you to understand exactly what I am before you make a decision about whether to run screaming or..." He trails off, his black eyes searching mine for something he's clearly terrified of finding. "Or what?" I whisper. "Or whether to let me become everything dangerous about your life." He finishes. My hands are shaking. This man is telling me he's going to ruin me, and I'm listening like it's a love song. "I don't even know your last name," I say. "Alexander Petrov. I run organized crime operations across 3 continents. I've killed people. I've broken families. I've stolen enough money to buy countries," he says, like he's reading a grocery list. "I have enemies who'd burn you to ash just to watch me break. And somehow, when you stitched up that wound, something in me that I thought was dead started beating again. And I don't know how to stop it. And I don't know how to keep you safe while wanting you this badly." He's close enough now that I can smell him smoke and cologne and something darker, something that smells like autumn nights and choices. "You're a criminal," I say, and it feels like an accusation. "I'm a curse," he corrects. "And you just walked into my life like a girl who thought she could save me with a stitch and a kind word. You can't. But I'm selfish enough to let you try. What happens if I ask you to take me home?" I ask. "You go home," he says immediately. "Tonight, tomorrow, whenever you want. The protection stays, the money stays. But I stop calling. I stop finding reasons to be near you. I stop." He swallows hard. "I stop looking at you like you're the only light I've ever seen." He's offering me an escape route, and the generosity of it is more dangerous than any weapon. "And if I don't ask," I whisper, "then you become the thing I protect most, and the thing I'm most likely to destroy," he says. And we both know it. The window behind him shows the city, all those lights, all those people living their safe, small lives, the ones I've been too afraid to fully live in because I was always one disaster away from losing everything. At least with him, I know exactly what the disaster is. "I need time," I say. "You have it," he replies. "You have all of it. I've waited for things that matter. I can wait for you." There's a knock on the door, sharp, urgent. The sound of someone who brings bad news. Alexander doesn't look away from me. "Come in." A man bursts in, whispers something in Russian that makes Alexander's entire body go rigid. When he responds, his voice has changed. It's sharp, commanding, the voice of someone who owns empires. Then he looks back at me, and the transformation is immediate. The ruler becomes the man again, the one who's terrified of what he might do to me. "The Volkovs just made a move," he says quietly. They've taken someone from my organization, someone important, someone who knows too much about our operations, and they're using them as leverage to draw me out. What does that mean? I ask. It means I have to disappear for a while, he says. It means I have to go back into the dark parts of myself that I was hoping you might pull me out of. It means I have to do things that will remind you exactly why you should be afraid of me. He steps back, and I feel the loss of proximity like a physical pain. Will you come back? I ask. I don't know, he says, and the honesty breaks me. I'm going to try. I'm going to try so hard. But men like me, Arya, we don't always get to choose whether we come back from the dark. Sometimes the dark keeps us. Then don't go, I say. Stay. Let someone else handle this. I can't, he whispers, but I'm going to leave you with something. He pulls a key from his pocket, silver, ornate, impossibly heavy-looking. What is this? I ask. Security, he says. This opens every door in this house, every safe, every room, everything that's mine, you can access. If anything happens to me, everything goes to you. The money, the property, the protection, it's all yours. I'm putting you in my will tonight. Alexander. No, he interrupts. Don't thank me. Don't refuse. Just know that I'm giving you options, because keeping you safe means giving you a way out, even if I'm not there to provide it. He walks to the door. When he reaches the threshold, he pauses. I'll come back, he says, and it sounds like a prayer and a curse mixed together. I have to, because the alternative is leaving you in the hands of the dark, and I love you too much for that. Even though I barely know you, even though it's insane, I love you. He leaves, and I stand in his study, holding a silver key, realizing that he's just given me both his crown and his curse, and I have to decide which one I'm willing to wear. 2 weeks of silence. 2 weeks of living in a mansion that isn't mine, in rooms that smell like rich wood and old secrets, wearing clothes that Dimitri brings me all perfect, all in my size, all paid for by a man who's apparently decided I'm his investment. The house has a rhythm, but it's the rhythm of a tomb. Staff moves through the halls like ghosts. Nobody speaks to me directly. Nobody makes eye contact. It's like I'm a phenomenon that hasn't been categorized yet, and everyone's afraid that acknowledging me might curse them. I've spent my time exploring. The library has books in 17 languages. The study has photographs of a younger Alexander, with people who have the same sharp features family, I assume, though his expression in every photo is the same. Cold, controlled, unreachable. There's a room on the 3rd floor he's locked. I found it by accident when I was wandering at 3 a.m. because sleep is a luxury I can no longer afford. The door is black wood, reinforced, and the lock is electronic. I tried the silver key, it doesn't work. But I can hear something beyond the door. A heartbeat, maybe, or the hum of machinery. Something is locked in this house, and Alexander doesn't want it found. Tonight, I'm in the kitchen at 2 a.m., making tea I won't drink, when Dimitri appears like he materialized from shadow. You should be sleeping, he says. It's the most he's spoken to me since he brought me here. You should be outside instead of creeping up on people, I reply. He almost smiles. Almost. Alexander would kill me if you had a heart attack. Where is he? I ask. The question I've been asking for 14 days. Where he needs to be, Dimitri says, which is the answer I get every time. There's been a situation, a complication. Is he alive? Yes. Dimitri leans against the counter. But he's going to do something very dangerous to fix this. Something that goes against the rules he's built his entire empire on. What are you saying? I'm saying that the girl he brought here, the waitress he stitched to the core of his world, she's worth him breaking every law he's made. That's unprecedented. That's dangerous for him. And it means whatever he does next will scar him in ways violence never could. There's a sound at the kitchen door. We both turn, and for a moment, I think it's him, but it's a woman. She's perhaps 60, with Alexander's sharp features and eyes that have seen things that made them hard as diamonds. She wears an emerald robe like it's armor. You, she says to me, and her accent is pure Russian, older than time. You're the reason my grandson is burning his entire operation. Mother, Dimitri says, a warning in his voice. I'm his grandmother, she continues, ignoring Dimitri completely. My name is Katya Petrov, and I want to know why a waitress is worth the legacy of the Petrov family. I don't know what to say, so I tell the truth. I don't think I am. She studies me with an intensity that feels like being examined under a microscope by God. You stitched him, she says finally. Not like a doctor. Like a woman who believed she could heal him. Do you understand how rare that is? Alexander has been taught from birth that love is a weakness, that vulnerability is a disease, and then you touch his wound like it's not something to be ashamed of, and suddenly he's willing to tear his world apart. I didn't ask for this, I say. Neither did he, Katya replies. But fate doesn't ask permission. It takes what it wants, and makes you live with the consequences. She moves closer, and I see the resemblance now, the same sharp cheekbones, the same way of holding power in her shoulders. There's a curse on this family, she says quietly. One that's been passed down for 3 generations. Every Petrov man who reaches power learns that love destroys him. My husband chose power and died alone. Alexander's father chose power, and it corroded him until he was empty. Alexander swore he would never choose love, that he would be the first Petrov to master the darkness, instead of being mastered by it. What are you saying? I whisper. I'm saying that by loving you, he's breaking the only rule he's given himself. I'm saying that the curse doesn't like to be broken, and I'm saying that you need to understand exactly what you're asking him to sacrifice. The lights flicker, just once. But it feels ominous, like the house itself is listening. There's a room on the 3rd floor, Katya continues. The one you found but can't open. Do you know what's in there? No, I say. His mother, she says quietly. Alive, but not. Conscious, but not. She reached for love once, when Alexander was a child. The curse took her sanity as a price. She's been locked away for 30 years, and Alexander goes to her once a month to sit with the woman she used to be, and ask forgiveness for the thing he was born with. My stomach turns to ice. The curse isn't a myth, Katya finishes. It's as real as blood and bone. And loving you means he's risking his mind, his soul, everything he's built to keep himself sane. So the question isn't whether he's worth you, girl. The question is whether you're worth the price of him. Before I can respond, there's movement outside the kitchen window. A car pulls up to the gates. Through the glass, I see Alexander emerge. His clothes are torn, there's blood on his neck, and he moves like he's carrying something too heavy for any one person to bear. He's home. Katya melts back into the shadows like she was never there. I'm at the door before I can think about what I'm doing. I'm running down the corridor before I can consider the consequences, and I'm throwing open the front door as he's stepping through it, looking at me with eyes that have seen atrocities. I'm sorry, he says immediately. I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry I came back like this. I'm sorry. I kiss him. It's not a graceful kiss. It's desperate and clumsy and tastes like blood and fear. But it's real, and it's mine, and it says what I can't articulate. I'm here. I choose this. I choose you. When I pull back, he's looking at me like I've just offered him heaven. Your grandmother told me about the curse, I say. His entire body goes rigid. What did she say? That loving me is going to destroy you, I reply. That it already is. Then you know what happens next, he says. You leave. You take the money, the protection, all of it, and you leave while I still have the strength to let you go. No, I say. Arya, no, I repeat. I'm not leaving. I don't care about the curse. I don't care about the legacy. I care about the fact that you came back, that you're trying, that you love me enough to offer me a way out, even when it would destroy you to lose me. His hands shake as he reaches for me. I killed a man tonight, he whispers. Someone who was unarmed, someone who had family, and I did it thinking about you. I did it to protect something that should be protected from me. Then we'll carry that together, I say. Whatever comes next, we carry it together. He pulls me against him, and I feel the curse like a living thing, cold, ancient, hungry, but I also feel his heartbeat, strong and desperate, beating like it's trying to convince both of us that love is stronger than any darkness. The doubt in his eyes suggests he's still not convinced, and that's when I realize this isn't a story about whether he's worth saving. It's a story about whether the curse will let him go. The fever starts 3 days after he returns. I notice it because I've been watching him the way hunted animals watch for predators, waiting for the moment the curse decides to collect its price. He's cold despite the fire roaring in the study. His hands shake when he thinks I'm not looking, and there's a darkness gathering behind his eyes that feels less like exhaustion and more like something alive. You need to go to the hospital, I tell him, pressing a cool cloth to his forehead. No hospitals, he says, the words clipped, automatic. Hospitals are where enemies find leverage. You're sick, Alexander. Not everything is a conspiracy. He catches my wrist. Not aggressive, but absolute. Trust me when I tell you everything is a conspiracy. Especially my body turning against me right now. I pull my hand back, frustrated. Your grandmother told me about the curse. About what happens to the men who love. Something flickers across his face. Fear, resignation, hope. All of them fighting for dominance. Katya talks too much, he says. She said your mother is in that locked room upstairs. She said the curse took her sanity as payment. It did, he confirms. My father chose love once. He chose my mother. And the curse decided love was too dangerous, so it stole her mind. She's been alive all these years, but she doesn't recognize anyone. She doesn't speak. She just sits in that room. And sometimes she screams, and sometimes she cries. And I visit her once a month and I tell her I'm sorry for existing. His voice is matter of fact, which somehow makes it worse. That's not going to be you, I say. You don't know that, he replies quietly. You're here because I was selfish. You're here because I couldn't accept that safety meant staying away. And now the curse is burning through me because it always does. It always takes something. And this time, it's going to take me slowly, in front of you, and you're going to have to watch the man you choose to love become something empty. Stop, I say. Stop talking like that. I'm talking like someone who's watched this movie before, he says. I'm talking like a man who has one choice left. Disappear so the curse only destroys me, or stay and risk it destroying you too. That night, he leaves. I find the note on my pillow, written in handwriting that's barely controlled. I can't protect you from myself. The curse is old, and it's hungry, and it's learned that I'll do anything to keep you safe. Which means I have to become the thing you're most afraid of. By the time I see you again, if I see you again, I need to be different. I need to be the man who doesn't deserve you, so you can stop sacrificing yourself for something impossible. The key opens everything. The house is yours. Take what you need, and build the life I've stolen from you. I love you. That's the cruelest thing I've ever done. I don't cry. I can't cry. Crying feels like accepting that he's right, that we're impossible, that the curse was waiting for me the moment I touched his wound. Instead, I do something foolish. I find the hidden room. It takes me 4 hours and a stolen security card from Dimitri's desk, but I figure out the pattern. The lock is biometric, but it also has a manual override hidden in the frame. When the door opens, what I find is both exactly what I expected and nothing like I imagined. It's a medical suite. High-tech, sterile, with machines that monitor everything. And in the center, on a bed surrounded by the best medicine money can buy, is a woman who looks like an older, broken version of Alexander. She's awake. Her eyes track me across the room, and there's something there, some fragment of consciousness that registers my presence. Hi, I say softly, because protocol feels absurd in the face of this much pain. I'm Arya. I love your son. She doesn't respond, but her hand trembles, like the words have reached something in her that's still alive. I spend the night talking to her. I tell her about the diner, about the night Alexander came through bleeding, about the way his eyes look at me like I'm the only thing keeping him tethered to Earth. I tell her about the curse, and about the impossible choice he's making. By morning, my voice is hoarse, and she hasn't responded, but something feels different. The machines show her heart rate is stronger. There's color in her cheeks that wasn't there before. Dimitri finds me at dawn. You shouldn't be in here, he says, but he doesn't try to remove me. How long has she been like this? I ask. 32 years, he replies. Since the night, the curse decided love was too expensive. What if it's not? I ask. What if the curse isn't punishing love itself, but the men who love? What if it specifically targets Petrov men, because they refuse to let the woman they love help them carry the burden? Dimitri stares at me. You think the curse is about pride? About choosing power instead of partnership? I think, I say carefully, that your boss has spent his entire life learning that love is weakness. I think the curse may have exploited that belief, because belief is stronger than any magic. And I think if he learned that love is actually strength, if he let someone love him as completely as he loves them, maybe the curse would have nothing to feed on. That's a theory, Dimitri says. But the cost of being wrong is his mind. It's your future. It's everything. I know, I reply. But he's already paid the price of running. I'm going to pay the price of staying. Alexander doesn't come back for a week. When he does, he's different. His eyes are hollow, and there's an exhaustion in his face that suggests he's been awake for days. He doesn't see me at first. He just walks into the study and pours vodka with shaking hands. I can feel it, he says to the empty room. I can feel it in my skull, grinding against my thoughts. The curse doesn't like that I stayed. It doesn't like that I loved her. It's going to take everything. Then let me help you carry it, I say from the doorway. He looks at me, and for a moment, I see pure terror in his eyes. The terror of a man watching the thing he loves become exactly the target the curse was aiming for. I sent you away, he says. I didn't go, I reply. I stayed with your mother. I sat with her, and I told her about you. And somewhere inside whatever the curse has left of her, she listened. He moves toward me. But it's not the controlled grace he's learned. It's desperate, unsteady, the movement of someone breaking. I can't do this to you, he whispers. Then don't, I say. Don't carry it alone. Let me carry half. Let me be the strength you're too proud to need. Let me love you not because you deserve it, but because I choose it. And when he finally reaches me, he's crying the kind of tears that only come when something inside finally admits defeat. The curse doesn't scream, but the house holds its breath. The first seizure happens at midnight. We're in bed, and his body goes rigid, his back arching like something's pulling him apart from the inside. I should be terrified, but I've been waiting for this. The curse doesn't negotiate. It takes payment. Alexander, I say, holding him down, my voice steady even as my hands shake. I'm here. I'm right here. His eyes roll back, white showing, and the seizure rack through him like electricity. I've wedged pillows around him, called for Dmitri, done everything I can think of, but the truth is, there's nothing modern medicine can do for a curse that's been in his blood for 30 years. When it passes, he collapses, like his strings have been cut. His breathing is shallow, his skin is ice, and his eyes take a long time to focus on me. It's starting, he says hoarsely. The final phase. This is how it took my mother. It's not, I say, even though I don't know that. It's different this time because I'm here. You being here is what's accelerating it, he whispers. Don't you understand? The curse feeds on love. It grows stronger when it knows you're the reason I'm fighting. It's using you as fuel. A doctor arrives, one of Alexander's people, which means discretion and a willingness to treat the supernatural. She examines him thoroughly, checking reflexes, running tests, and finally shaking her head. There's nothing I can do, she says quietly. Whatever this is, it's not medical. It's cellular, but it's wrong in ways that don't make sense. It's like his body is rejecting itself. After she leaves, I sit with him in the darkness. I need to tell you something, he says. Something Katya probably didn't mention. There's a way to break the curse. There's always a way. But it requires a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? I ask, though I already know the answer. The one thing the curse wants most, he says. Love. Willing, complete, conscious sacrifice. Someone would have to take the curse from me. Someone would have to agree to carry the darkness so I could be free. No, I say immediately. I'm not asking you to do it, he continues. I'm telling you that it's possible. And I'm telling you because I need you to know that even if I break, even if the curse takes me completely, there's a path back. There's always a path back. I'm not giving up on you, I say. He reaches for me, his hand shaking. What if I am? What if I'm already gone and I'm just too stubborn to lie down? The seizures continue every few hours. Each one is worse than the last. His fever climbs. His mind starts to fray at the edges. He has moments where he doesn't recognize me. Moments where he thinks the woman locked upstairs is in the room with us. Moments where he's lost in time, reliving things he's never told me about. On the third day, Katya finds me in the kitchen. You have to stop this, she says without preamble. You have to let him go. I can't, I reply. You can, she insists. And you have to. Because the only way the curse breaks is if someone chooses him. Someone loves him so completely that they're willing to take on his darkness, and that someone will lose themselves, Arya. They will carry his pain, his sins, his madness, and they will spend the rest of their life trying to remember who they were before they made that choice. Then I'll be that person, I say. No, Katya says firmly. I will. She says it like it's a decision already made, already approved by forces larger than both of us. You? I ask, shocked. I'm his grandmother. I've known this day would come since he was born, she explains. I've been preparing for it. I've been learning the old magic, the language of blood and bone that existed long before modern curses. And I've always known I would have to be the one to take this from him, because it was my bloodline that cursed him in the first place. What do you mean? I ask. The curse isn't punishment, she says quietly. It's a choice I made when I married my husband. I chose power over love, and when he died from that choice, I swore my bloodline would never make the same mistake I did. I put a curse on every male heir, a curse designed to remind them that love and power cannot coexist, that choosing one means destroying the other. I did it to protect them from making the same choice I made. I did it wrong. Tears are streaming down her face, and I've spent 30 years watching my grandson fight a curse I gave him, and I've spent 30 years learning how to take it back. So this is how this ends. I take the curse, he gets to live, and you get to love him without watching him die from it. What happens to you? I ask. I become the cursed one, she says simply. But I've lived long enough. I've had my life. He deserves his. I want to argue, but I look at her face, and I see the acceptance there. This is a sacrifice she's been planning since before I met Alexander. This is an act of love so profound it breaks something in my chest. How? I ask. Blood magic, she replies. There's a ritual. It requires your help. That night, we gather in the locked room where Alexander's mother lives. Katya stands in the center of the space, and she begins to speak in a language older than Russia, older than empires. The words sound like they're tearing themselves from her throat, each one a piece of her dying. Alexander lies on a bed, semi-conscious, burning with fever. I hold his hand. Katya produces a knife, silver and ancient, and she makes a cut across her palm. The blood that spills glows faintly, and it moves like it's alive, like it has a will of its own. It flows from her hand toward Alexander, and when it touches him, his entire body convulses. The fever breaks suddenly. His eyes snap open, clear and focused for the first time in days. The seizures stop. The darkness that's been gathering behind his eyes retreats, and Katya falls. I catch her, lowering her to the ground. The knife falls from her hand, and she's suddenly ancient in a way that has nothing to do with age. Her hair is white, pure white, and there's a darkness that gathers around her like a living shadow. It's done, she whispers. The curse is mine now, and it will be kinder to me because I'm old and I've already lived. But Alexander, he's free. He can love now without fear. She smiles at me. Take care of him, she says. He's going to spend the rest of his life trying to thank me. Don't let him waste it on guilt. Make him live the life he's been too afraid to build. She loses consciousness, and the doctors rush in. But we all know, Katya Petrov has just chosen a lifetime of suffering to save her grandson from a few years of madness. She's taken the curse, and it's already beginning to feed on her. Slowly, deliberately, the way it would have fed on him. Alexander wakes as the sun rises, and for the first time in weeks, his eyes are clear. When he sees me, the relief is so profound it shatters him completely. 3 weeks pass, and they feel like 3 years. Alexander heals with a speed that suggests the curse, now bound to his grandmother, no longer has any interest in destroying him. His wounds close, his fever recedes, his mind, which had begun to fracture at the edges, becomes whole again. He moves through the mansion like a man being born for the second time, everything new and terrifying and miraculous. But Katya deteriorates. I visit her every day, and every day there's less of her. The curse hasn't made her violent or mad. Instead, it's slowly erasing her. Her memories go first. She forgets names, faces, entire decades. Then the pain sets in. She lies in bed and doesn't scream, but her hands grip the sheets so hard she draws blood. Alexander can't bring himself to visit. I understand why, but I also understand that it's a cruelty. Her sacrifice becomes meaningless if he's too ashamed of living his freedom. So I force the issue. Come with me, I tell him one morning. He's in the study, reviewing business that he's slowly taken back up, and the familiar weight of empire is settling back onto his shoulders like an old coat. No, he says immediately. Yes, I reply. You're going to see her. You're going to sit with her. And you're going to spend the rest of your life honoring what she did by actually living the life she bought for you. She's suffering because of me. She's suffering because she chose to. I interrupt. That's the difference. She made a choice, and she's at peace with it. It's you who's turned it into guilt, and that's far more insulting to her than any absence could be. He looks at me like I'm a stranger, like I've said something that breaks some fundamental rule of how he understands the world. Come on, I say, extending my hand. When we enter her room, Katya's eyes track us slowly. There's maybe 30% of her left, The rest has been consumed by the curse, by time, by the weight of carrying someone else's darkness. Grandson, she says, and her voice is papery, ancient. You're free, because you, Alexander starts, but she cuts him off with a look. Don't thank me, she says. Thank me by living. Thank me by not wasting the life I've given you on guilt. Thank me by choosing love over power, and choosing her over the empire. He sits beside her bed, and for the first time, he cries in front of her, not the desperate tears of a man breaking, but the quiet tears of a man understanding that he's been given a gift he doesn't deserve, and the only way to honor it is to be worthy of it eventually. Katya reaches for my hand, the one not holding Alexander's. You love him, she says. It's not a question. Yes, I reply. He's going to destroy things, she tells me. Even without the curse, he's a weapon. And weapons leave damage. I need you to decide right now whether you're willing to spend your life rebuilding what he tears apart. I need you to decide whether you love the possibility of him or the reality of him. I love him, I say simply. The real him. Not the version I'm hoping he'll become. She smiles. And for a moment, there's a clarity in her eyes that suggests Katya is fully present, fully herself. Good, she says. That means you'll survive what's coming. What's coming? I ask. The rest, she replies. The part where love isn't enough. The part where you have to choose between the man you love and the world he's committed crimes against. The part where his empire will crack under the weight of redemption. She closes her eyes, but that's a problem for tomorrow. Today, I'm just old, and I'm tired, and I'm happy. So sit with me, both of you. Sit with me and let me feel like I did something good before I go. So we sit. Alexander holds my hand, and I hold Katya's, and for 6 hours we just exist together, breathing the same air, sharing the same space. She tells him stories about his childhood that he's forgotten moments of joy before the empire claimed him completely. She tells me things she wants me to remember, small truths about love, about power, about the kind of woman a man like Alexander needs. When she dies, it's so quiet I almost miss it. Her breathing just stops. Her hand goes slack, and the darkness that was consuming her simply evaporates, like it was never there. The curse releases her, and Alexander's grandmother becomes free. Alexander screams then, not in pain but in pure, raw grief. He screams like he's trying to call her back from whatever comes next. He screams like he's finally understood the weight of the price she paid. I hold him, and I let him break, because some things are too big to hold together. That night, he stands in front of his desk with every weapon he has access to, and he makes a choice. I'm stepping back, he announces to Dmitri. I'm dismantling the operations that deal in human trafficking. I'm converting the seized assets to shelters and rehabilitation programs. I'm going to spend the next 10 years turning the blood money into something that at least resembles redemption. That will destroy you, Dmitri says quietly. I know, Alexander replies. But Katya gave her life so I could be free to choose something other than power. I'm not wasting that. He looks at me. And I'm choosing her. I'm choosing a life where my empire is secondary to building something with someone who loves me despite knowing exactly what I am. The Mafia doesn't let people walk away clean. The next week brings violence, betrayals, and a cascade of consequences. But Alexander faces it all with a calm that suggests he's finally at peace with the price of freedom. The question is whether I'm at peace with paying it alongside him. The Volkov family sends their message in blood. It arrives at the mansion gates as a body, one of Alexander's oldest associates, someone who's been with him since before I existed. He's been tortured first, executed second, and displayed as a statement about what happens when a boss decides to go soft. Dmitri brings Alexander the news, and I watch the man I love take one very deliberate breath before responding. Gather everyone, Alexander says quietly. Every lieutenant, every soldier, every asset, in 1 hour. Alexander, Dmitri starts, but there's no warning in his voice. There's resignation. He knows what this means. We all do. 1 hour, Alexander repeats. He looks at me, and his eyes are different now. Not because the curse has returned, but because the man without the curse is just as dangerous as the one with it. Possibly more so, because Alexander Petrov with something to protect is a weapon with intention. I need you to leave, he says. No, I reply immediately. Arya, I said no. I repeat. You're not doing this alone. You're not taking the weight of this on yourself like you've learned nothing. You chose to step back, But you didn't choose to be weak. You chose to protect people instead of ruling them. Those are different things. His jaw tightens. What happens in the next few hours will not be something you can unsee. Then I'll unsee it differently with you than without you, I say. He walks toward me, and the predator he's been training himself to be is suddenly fully visible. It's terrifying. It's magnetic. It's the reason I'm still here instead of running. You always challenge me, he says softly. You're the only thing in my entire life that's ever challenged me instead of served me. Do you understand what you're asking? I'm asking you to be honest, I reply. You're violent, you're ruthless, and you're trying to atone for it by becoming something else. But atonement doesn't mean becoming weak. It means becoming strong enough to make different choices. So make one. Choose her, choose me, while choosing to be the man who doesn't let his people die without consequence. He kisses me, and it's not gentle. It's a claim, a promise, a war declaration all at once. The assembly happens in the basement. This is something I've never seen before. Alexander's entire world gathered in one space. There are easily 50 people here, men and women both, all with the kind of eyes that have witnessed violence and participated in it. The air feels thick with electricity and barely controlled aggression. Alexander stands at the center, and when he speaks, his voice carries the weight of absolute authority. The Volkovs have decided they want a war, he says. They've decided that our decision to step back from certain operations is a sign of weakness. They've decided to test us. And I'm going to tell you exactly what's about to happen. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I expect from all of you. He pauses, and the silence that follows is absolute. First, the Volkov organization is going to cease to exist. Not surrender, not negotiate. Cease. We're going to burn them to the ground and salt the earth so they can never grow again. Second, we're going to make an example of their leadership that echoes across every major criminal organization on 3 continents. Third, we're going to do this while keeping civilian casualties to a minimum, and we're going to do it while operating within a framework of honor that the old empires wouldn't recognize. There's a stirring of confusion. This is not how empire runs. Empire runs on extremism. I know what you're thinking. Alexander continues. You're thinking that I've become soft, that the curse breaking something in me, that I've lost the ability to lead. You're wrong. I'm about to show you something worse than what the old Alexander would have done. I'm about to show you what a man can do when he's fighting for something other than power. He points to Dmitri. Call everyone. Call in every favor. Call in the federal agents who owe us, the politicians who answer to us, the rival families who understand what Volkov expanding means. We have 48 hours to dismantle them completely. Legally, if possible. Violently, if necessary. The assembly moves with the kind of efficiency that only comes from years of training. But it's different now. Instead of raiding competing territories, they're building a case. Instead of killing witnesses, they're collecting evidence. Instead of expanding power, they're creating accountability. It's war, but it's war fought by someone who's learned to hold a sword like a scalpel. Alexander works for 36 hours straight. I stay with him, bringing him coffee he doesn't drink, watching as he orchestrates the dismantling of a rival empire with the precision of someone executing a symphony. He's beautiful and terrible to watch this man who's learned to weaponize legality, who's learned that destruction doesn't require cruelty when it requires intelligence. When the Volkov organization collapses, it's not because of a massacre. It's because every secret they have is suddenly documented. Every crime they've committed is suddenly in the hands of people who can prosecute. Every alliance they've built is suddenly shattered because the benefits of staying loyal no longer outweigh the cost. The bodies still come. Death is still part of the equation. But the death toll is measured in dozens instead of hundreds, and most of them are confined to the people who chose to fight instead of surrender. When it's finished, Alexander sits in his study as the sun rises, and he looks like he's aged 10 years in 2 days. I sit across from him, and I don't say anything, because words feel like insults to the weight of what he's done. I killed 3 people myself, he says finally. 2 with guns, 1 with my hands. I told myself I was doing it differently, better, but I still killed them. I still watched the light leave their eyes. I still felt the weight of being the reason they stopped existing. Yes, I say. And you're still here, he says, like it's a question. Yes, I repeat. Why? He asks. Why are you still choosing this? Why are you still choosing me? I stand, and I walk to the window. The city below is waking up, and nobody down there knows that an entire criminal empire collapsed last night. Nobody knows what it cost. Nobody will ever know the weight of the choice we're both making. Because you're trying, I say finally. Because even when you're drowning in your own nature, you're trying to be something better. Because loving you isn't about finding a good man, it's about standing beside someone while they become one. He stands, and he pulls me into his arms, and for the first time since the curse broke, I feel the entire weight of what his love means. It means war. It means consequence. It means choosing danger every single day, because the alternative is letting him face it alone. And somehow, impossibly, that feels right. He asks me to marry him at the grave of his grandmother. It's not romantic in the traditional sense. There's no ring yet, no rose petals, no orchestrated moment. We're simply standing at Katya's burial place on a November evening when the air smells like coming snow, and he takes my hand and says, "I want to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of what you've already given me." "That's not a proposal," I say. "It's not," he agrees. "It's a statement of intent. The proposal is, will you marry me knowing exactly what I am? Knowing that my hands will never be clean? Knowing that you'll spend your life untangling people from the consequences of my choices?" I look at the gravestone, Katya Petrov, 1943 to 2024. She chose love, and I think about the woman who gave her life so this man could be free to choose something other than power. "Yes," I say, "I'll marry you." He pulls me close, and it's different this time. Not desperate, not frantic, just absolute. He kisses me like he's sealing a contract with his body, and when he pulls back, there's something in his eyes that says he finally believes it. I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to run. I'm going to stay, even when it costs me. The wedding happens 4 months later, in the spring, at the mansion that's slowly transforming from a symbol of empire into something softer. Gardens have been planted where security barriers used to stand. The locked room where Alexander's mother lives has been converted into something more comfortable, more humane. She still doesn't recognize anyone, but at least she's not isolated anymore. I wear white, which feels like a statement in itself, not because I'm innocent, but because Alexander is choosing to make me something he protects instead of something he consumes. Dmitri stands as his best man. The guest list is small people who've agreed to testify about Alexander's crimes. People who've agreed to help build something new. People who understand that love looks different when it's not a weakness but a weapon pointed at everyone except the person you're choosing. When it's time to say vows, Alexander takes both my hands. "I promise to love you as violently as I've loved power," he says. "I promise to protect you with the same ruthlessness I use for my enemies. I promise to spend every day becoming a man who deserves you. And I promise that even when I fail, and I will fail, I will never stop trying. I promise that my last breath will be drawn knowing that you were the best choice I've ever made. My vows are simpler. I promise to love you as you are now. I promise to fight beside you as you become what you're trying to be. I promise to remember Katya every day, and to honor her by making sure you live the life she bought for you. When we kiss as married, there's no applause. Just the wind moving through the gardens and the knowledge that we've just pledged ourselves to something that half of the people here thought was impossible. That night, in our bed, with the city lights filtering through the windows, Alexander traces my face with his fingers like he's memorizing the topography of the only thing he'll ever let himself love completely. "I used to think love was a weakness," he says. "And now?" I ask. "Now I know it's the most dangerous thing I've ever encountered. It's stronger than power. It's more addictive than violence. And it's the only thing that's ever made me willing to change." He moves inside me like he's conducting a conversation with my body. And it's not just physical. It's the culmination of every choice we've made, every moment we've survived, every second of loving someone who was supposed to destroy us. When he comes, he says my name like it's a prayer. And when I come, I hold him like I'm trying to keep him tethered to me, to goodness, to the possibility that a man like him can be redeemed through love and choice, and someone brave enough to stand beside him while he becomes something new. Afterward, we lie in silence, and he traces patterns on my shoulder. "My mother asked about you today," he says softly. I turn to look at him. "She did?" "For the first time in 30 years, she said someone's name," he continues. "She looked at you sitting beside her bed, and she said Arya, like she was remembering that love existed before the curse took her mind." Tears spill down my face because the weight of that is too much. "What does that mean?" I ask. "I think it means that love has power we don't understand," he says. "I think it means that the cure for the curse isn't just sacrifice. It's being loved so completely that the darkness can't survive it. It's someone saying, 'I choose you anyway.'" He pulls me closer. "I love you," he says. "I love you in all the languages I speak. I love you in ways that terrify me because I know I could lose you, and it would destroy me more thoroughly than any curse ever could. You won't lose me, I promise. I might, he says quietly. The life we're building is dangerous. My enemies are still out there. The man I was is still inside me, waiting to reclaim the throne. But I'm going to fight it every single day, and I'm going to fight with the knowledge that you're fighting beside me. We fall asleep tangled together, and for the first time, his dreams don't seem to carry the weight of curses. They carry the possibility of redemption. They come at midnight. The Petrov enemies that Alexander thought he'd neutralized, the ones that extended criminal families across the globe, decided should remain as a problem waiting to be exploited. 30 men with guns, training, and absolutely nothing to lose, they breach the mansion's security in a coordinated attack that suggests professional planning. I wake to the sound of gunfire. Alexander is already moving, pulling me from bed, his weapon suddenly in his hand with the kind of fluid motion that suggests his nature is never truly dormant. Stay here, he says. But we both know I won't. The mansion has become a war zone. Alexander moves through the corridors like something ancient and furious, and I follow because my place is beside him, whether that's beautiful or terrible or both. The security team fights back, but they're overwhelmed, and for a moment, I see the possibility of a future where we don't survive this night. Then the federal agents arrive. Alexander has built connections with enough law enforcement agencies, enough politicians, enough people in power that when his home is attacked, the cavalry doesn't hesitate. The attackers are pinned, arrested, or eliminated with a speed that suggests this contingency was always planned. But one of them gets through. He's bleeding, desperate, and he has a gun pointed directly at me. If I die, you die, he says, and his accent matches Alexander's. I see Alexander's entire body tense, see him calculate the mathematics of saving me, see the war playing out behind his eyes between the man he's trying to become and the man he was born to be. Alexander, I say, and he looks at me. Don't. I won't let him take you, he replies. I know, I say, which is why you're going to let me do this. I move toward the gun. It's probably the stupidest thing I've ever done, but I do it anyway. The logic of love is never the logic of survival. The man with the gun hesitates for just a moment, because he's not expecting me to run toward danger instead of away from it, and in that moment of hesitation, Alexander moves. He disarms the man with a violence that's both economical and absolute. And then he's holding me, checking for blood, asking if I'm hit, if I'm hurt, if I'm alive. I'm okay, I whisper. I'm here. I'm with you. The police clear the mansion. Paramedics arrive for the wounded, and Alexander stands in the ruins of what he's been trying to build and holds me like I'm the only thing keeping him from shattering. I can't do this, he says, and his voice is breaking. I can't keep you safe. I can't protect you from my world, and every time I try, every time I make progress, the dark just comes back and forces another choice. I know, I say, and I'm still here. That's not enough, he replies, and there's anguish in his voice that's worse than anger. Then what is? I ask. What would be enough? He doesn't answer, but I see it in his eyes. The calculation of how many more times this could happen, how many more nights we could wake to violence, how many more times he could fail to protect me from the cost of loving him. The realization hits me like a physical blow. He's going to try to leave me. He's going to think that the kindest thing he can do is disappear, taking his danger with him. Don't, I say, reading his mind like I've learned to read his face. Don't you dare. Arya, you just proved something. I interrupt. You proved that you're willing to let the man you've built yourself to be protect me instead of reverting to the old Alexander. You proved that you've actually changed. And if you run now, if you decide that leaving is the answer, then Katya died for nothing. You'll be throwing away the freedom she bought you. He stares at me, and I see him wrestling with the truth of it. I love you too much to risk you like this, he says. Then love me enough to keep trying, I reply. Love me enough to believe that we're stronger together than we are apart. Love me enough to accept that the dark isn't going to stop coming, but we don't have to face it alone. He pulls me against him, and I feel the moment he makes the choice. Not to be perfect, not to eliminate all danger, but to stay, to fight, to build something with me despite knowing exactly how much it's going to cost us both. I'm terrified, he whispers. So am I reply. But I'm more terrified of a life where I'm not standing beside you while you figure out who you're trying to become. The sun rises on a mansion that's been attacked and defended, and we stand in the wreckage holding each other, knowing that this isn't the end. This is just the beginning of a different kind of story, Not the fairy tale where love solves everything, but the real story where love makes you brave enough to face the fact that some problems never fully solve. They just become problems you choose to carry together. 1 year later, I stand in the study of the mansion and marvel at how much has changed. The security is still formidable, but it's different now, designed to protect rather than fortify. The business operations are still complex, but they're legitimized as much as possible. The money still flows, but some of it flows back into the communities it came from. Alexander sits behind his desk, and he looks less like a king and more like a man who's decided to carry his crown differently. The federal sentencing hearing is scheduled for next month, he tells me. They're recommending 15 years. You knew it would come to this, I say. I did, he agrees. But I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to use my resources to disappear or evade. I'm going to accept the consequence. I walk to him, and he pulls me onto his lap like I'm something precious. What about the business? I ask. Dimitri's taking it, he says. I've trained him for the last year, showed him how to run it legally, how to walk the line between profit and ethics. He understands the assignment. And us? I ask. What happens to us while you're inside? You wait, he says simply. Or you don't. If you decide that 15 years is too long, if you decide that a life married to a man in prison isn't the life you want, I'll understand. I'll sign the divorce papers without fighting. You're insane if you think I'm leaving, I say. He smiles, and it's the real smile, the one that belongs to the man he's becoming, not the man he was. I love you, he says. I know, I reply. That's the only reason I'm staying. We spend the next 3 weeks saying goodbye to the life we've built. We visit his mother, and for one miraculous moment, she seems to recognize Alexander. Her hand reaches for his face, and she says his name like she's suddenly remembered the son she raised before the curse took her mind. We visit Katya's grave, and I leave flowers and a photograph of us on our wedding day. We make love like we're trying to fit a lifetime into moments. And we talk about the future, the one where he's released, and we build something real, something untouched by his old empire. On the day he has to turn himself in, we drive to the federal facility in silence. The goodbye happens in a visiting room with guards watching, and the weight of the justice system bearing down on us both. He holds my hand across the table, and he doesn't cry, but I do. Be strong, he tells me. Not because you need to be strong for me, but because you need to be strong for yourself. Live your life while I'm gone. Don't wait for me in some frozen moment. Grow, change, become. I'll visit. I promise. I know you will, he replies. And every time you do, I'll thank God that I found the one woman in the world brave enough to love a monster. And I'll spend every single day becoming a man who's worthy of that bravery. The guards come to take him away. I watch him walk through the metal detector and into the prison beyond, and I realize, this is what love looks like when it's real. Not the passion of meetings in dark diners, not the intensity of survival bonded together, but the quiet choice to stand beside someone even when the consequences are prison, even when the sacrifice is measured in years. 2 weeks after Alexander enters federal prison, I discover I'm pregnant. I sit in my doctor's office and stare at the ultrasound image, and I think about the curse, how it was supposed to make love impossible, how it was supposed to destroy anyone who got close to the darkness. But the curse is gone now, taken by a woman who loved her grandson more than she loved her own survival. Instead, I have this. A child growing in my body, a man in prison, willing to pay the price for his choices, and a future that's uncertain, but entirely mine. I drive back to the mansion, the place that used to feel like a fortress, and now feels like a home, and I walk into the study where Alexander's been running an empire and a broken man in parallel for so long. I pull out a blank piece of paper, and I write, "My love, I'm telling you in a letter because I'm a coward, and you're not here to see my face when I deliver the news that terrifies and excites me in equal measure. We're going to have a daughter. I don't know if we'll get to name her together, if you'll be there when she's born, if you'll have enough time with me and her before your sentence is up. But I know that she's going to be born from the only pure thing in my life right now, my love for you. She's going to grow up knowing her father sacrificed his freedom for his conscience. She's going to grow up knowing that love isn't about being perfect, it's about trying despite knowing you'll fail. I'm naming her Katya. Not for your grandmother, but as a promise. She'll grow up knowing that women in our family choose love even when it costs everything. She'll grow up knowing that sacrifice isn't weakness. She'll grow up knowing her mother loved her father enough to wait for his redemption. I'll be here. I'll raise her, And I'll tell her stories about the man you were and the man you're becoming. And when you're released, you'll have 15 years of stories to catch up on. I chose you the night you bled in a diner. I choose you every day I visit that prison. And I'll choose you for the rest of my life. Because choosing love despite danger is the most courageous thing I've ever done. With everything I have and everything I am, Arya. I seal the letter and address it to the federal prison where my husband is beginning to pay the price of his redemption. And outside the mansion, the city lights glitter like promises that the night won't last forever. That love is stronger than curses. That choosing someone dangerous is sometimes the bravest choice you can make.